You're missing out big time if you haven't played 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim yet. Let me give you 7 reasons why it's an absolute must play. 13 Sentinels is about 70% visual novel and 30% real-time strategic combat, which would normally give me pause as I usually prefer more gameplay than story. However, the story segments of the game are so interesting, with characters having dreams or even premonitions of fighting in huge mechs against an alien enemy, or being in the depths of a huge UFO. Some characters even stumble upon time travel pretty early on, which just opens up a whole bunch of questions that the game slowly answers as you play through the 13 different characters' perspectives. In fact, the way the game slow rolls info to each character keeps you playing to see what the next character will discover and how that will relate to everything you, as the player, know so far. The story really does keep you on your toes, and you never really get the entire story until the game actually ends. Though if you're savvy, you may be able to piece together the gist of the plot by about halfway through the game's story. The way 13 Sentinels takes two disparate genres and seamlessly blends them together provides a unique experience if you're tired of the same old cliches in tactics and strategy games. You're sent right into the action at the start of the game, fighting kaiju, until you reach a point where you are locked out of the next mission until you complete a specific story segment for one of the game's main characters. This story segment may also require you to play other character stories to actually get to and unlock it. Then, at other times, you will need to play more combat missions to unlock further story beats. It may sound a little annoying, but this system actually helps to break up the gameplay so that you can take a break from each side of the game and keep everything fresh.
We were just talking about something. Yeah.
13 Sentinels shows off Vanillaware's beautiful style of art brilliantly. Each character is unique with their own varied personalities, and this can be seen very clearly by the way each character is drawn. Beyond the characters though, the backdrops for many scenes in the game are jaw-dropping. The skyline scenes in particular, especially the destroyed future one, are amazing, with the destroyed future one reminding me of the first time you traveled to the future in Chrono Trigger, or the destroyed future segment in Chrono Cross. You really get that feeling of this just isn't somewhere you should be. As mentioned before, each character is drawn really well, but they are also voiced with some top-notch voice acting that brings them to life and actually gets you to care about them and their stories. The way each character reacts to and deals with the different crazy and strange events that happen to them will make you laugh, empathize, maybe even be a little sad. Then there is the interactions these characters have with each other and how their relationships grow over the course of the game. There is definitely a heavy undertone too of being our own person regardless of our circumstances, and another undertone of how our environment can impact our decisions and personalities. There are actually some pretty heavy themes the game deals with through its characters, which just makes each character and the story in general feel all the more real. When it comes to the actual tactical combat side of the game, there is a lot to love, starting with customization. There are 4 classes of mechs, and each has a different specialty, such as melee, all-arounder, long range, and flying/mobility. Then each mech has its own set of skills and attacks that can be unlocked, which in some cases are different from even other mechs in the same class. There is everything from hard-hitting melee attacks for single big targets, to large AoE rocket barrages for the swarms of smaller enemies, to even huge railgun weapons that can decimate enemies in their paths. There are also several passive skills that can increase attack and mobility at the cost of armor, or increase the amount of energy a mech has for its abilities, and so on. You can even summon decoys or railgun turrets, which are a lot more useful than you may think. Each mech can also have its base stats upgraded, which when combined with all the options already mentioned, gives you a lot of build options when upgrading each mech. You can also only bring up to 6 of your 13 mechs each battle, with the rest either being assigned to defense and giving you defensive bonuses, or resting to be used in future battles, as each character can only fight 2 battles before they have to sit out 1 battle to recover. All these factors combine to create a truly interesting upgrade and build mechanic. In fact, it's so fleshed out that it's a real shame there isn't more of a chance to use this mechanic outside of the endless mode that unlocks at the end of the main story. Within the combat scenarios themselves, there actually is a surprising bit of depth as you get farther into the game. Certain large enemies will be more easily taken out by a melee mech with heavy attacks, but this means less units taking care of the hordes of smaller enemies, and this may cause you to shift to a new strategy. Some long-range enemies will pelt you into oblivion with missiles, so you may need a highly mobile flying unit to go out and take them out quickly, but this then may expose that unit to getting surrounded and swarmed. Most missions will also have bonus objectives that will give you more points to use for upgrading your units if you successfully complete them. These objectives may be to only use 4 mechs instead of 6 on your team, or they may require you to use certain characters or mech classes, or even defeat the enemy within a small time frame like less than 60 seconds. These challenges are optional of course, but very rewarding to complete, and they often force you to use new strategies you hadn't thought of before. So this last one is a bit different, but I really believe in supporting the studios and developers whose games you love. Most of you probably know, but Vanillaware also produced Unicorn Overlord, which is probably my game of the year for 2024. I think this team has a lot of talent and potential, and though they may not really be considered an indie studio at this point, more of a AA I'd say, they clearly have the pulse of tactics gamers and know what we like. They also seem to be open to feedback from their players, which will only help them make even better games in the future. If you haven't played 13 Sentinels yet, I encourage you to do so, as it truly is a labor of love and a well-written story with some pretty cool strategic battles. The caveat here, though, is, and I know this sounds counterintuitive to the video's title and everything I've been saying so far, but I like to be as honest as I can be when actually recommending games. So that caveat is that the game is probably 70% story and only 30% battles, as I mentioned earlier. I played for 35 hours, roughly, and only about 8 to 10 hours of that was actual battles and customizing and upgrading units. So if you tend to lean toward the gameplay side like I usually do, I would recommend picking this one up on a sale rather than full price. However, if you love a good story or visual novel style games, 13 Sentinels could very much be worth it at full price for you. And with that, make sure to watch this video next for a look at Vanillaware's other hit title. Remember to like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. Thank you so much for watching, have a great day, and keep on gaming.